There is something profoundly deceptive about the way Aida presents itself. It greets you with laughter, crude jokes, exaggerated gestures, and a soundtrack that promises light-hearted entertainment. Yet as the minutes pass, the comedy begins to rot from within. What you thought was a simple sitcom about working-class life becomes a reflection of a society caught in a perpetual moral contradiction. Aida, under the symbolic title Canción de Tuna, feels like a street melody, sung by people who have forgotten the lyrics to hope but keep singing anyway. It is a show that hides pain inside punchlines, that makes tragedy dance to the rhythm of irony. What fascinates me is how this laughter never feels innocent. It's laughter with an aftertaste, laughter that reveals rather than conceals. The story unfolds in Esperanza Sur, a fictional neighborhood that might as well be the real face of Spain's forgotten urban margins. It's a place where progress has become a rumor and decency a luxury. The buildings lean toward collapse, and the people who inhabit them carry the same instability in their hearts. Here, Aida Garcia, the titular character, returns home after a failed attempt to build a better life. She comes back not as a heroine, but as an exhausted woman who knows that failure, once experienced, becomes permanent. Her return is not triumphant, it's inevitable. From this very premise, the series builds a comedy of survival, a theater of human compromise, where every character trades integrity for convenience. Each scene feels like a moral laboratory. When Aida steals food from her employer or lies to her children to protect them from disappointment, the audience laughs. But that laughter conceals discomfort. We recognize her choices not as acts of corruption, but as the logic of poverty. In Esperanza Sur, morality is not a set of principles, but a matter of improvisation. The characters bend rules because the rules were never written for them. This moral flexibility becomes the show's recurring theme. The idea that the poor cannot afford purity. The brilliance of Aida lies in showing how necessity reshapes ethics, how survival transforms sin into strategy. Mauricio, the bar owner, functions as the show's cynic-in-chief. His bar is the central pulpit of the neighborhood, a smoky confessional where hypocrisy and honesty share the same glass of beer. He ridicules everyone, from Aida's family to the politicians on TV, but beneath his sarcasm lies a bitter truth. He mocks the world because he can't change it. His cruelty is a defense mechanism, a way to disguise impotence as superiority. Every time he laughs at Aida's misfortunes, we sense that he's really laughing at his own. The moral irony of Aida is that even its most despicable characters are victims of the same despair. No one is evil here, only tired. Chema, the mild-mannered grocery store clerk, tries to act as the neighborhood's moral compass, but his idealism constantly collides with the grime of reality. He wants to do good, to be the voice of conscience in a world ruled by impulse, yet he too becomes contaminated by compromise. His affection for Aida, pure at first, slowly becomes tinged with resignation. He loves her not because he believes in her potential, but because she represents something tragically real, a woman who continues to fight even after losing everything. Through Chema, the series explores the futility of goodness in a corrupt system. His morality is admirable, but ineffective. He's like a priest, giving sermons to people who have stopped believing in salvation. The comedy in Aida thrives on these contradictions. It constantly invites the viewer to laugh at what should not be funny. Aida's drunken mother, Eugenia, who oscillates between senile wisdom and vulgar outburst, turns dysfunction into routine. Her presence fills the screen with chaos, yet every insult and complaint hides an old sadness. She belongs to a generation that worked, sacrificed, and ended up forgotten. Her alcohol-fueled humor is her way of rewriting her own tragedy. In many scenes, she delivers lines that are outrageous and hysterical, yet when the laughter fades, we sense the echo of loneliness. That balance between ridicule and empathy defines the show's tone. It's what makes Aida feel more like a sociological study than mere entertainment. Visually, the series is intentionally claustrophobic. The interiors are cramped, the lighting flat, the colors faded. Nothing in Esperanza Sur shines. The setting denies the illusion of escape. This is not the Spain of postcards but of paychecks that vanish before the month ends. The bar, the apartment, the grocery store all become extensions of each other, like different rooms in a single shared house of disappointment. Even the camera movement reinforces the idea of entrapment. It rarely moves gracefully. It stumbles, follows, intrudes. The audience becomes a neighbor, peeking through half-closed blinds, witnessing dysfunction as part of daily life. The real genius of Aida lies in its use of repetition. Each episode feels like a variation of the same song, the same argument, the same small dream that never materializes. Aida promises to stop drinking, Lorena vows to find a better job, Mauricio swears he will change, and yet by the next episode, they're all back where they started. The circular narrative becomes a form of social commentary. Progress, for these people, is not linear. It's a myth. The show dismantles the very idea of personal transformation. Instead of redemption arcs, we get routines of failure, yet we keep watching because within that failure there's a strange beauty. It's the beauty of resilience without reward. When I think about the most revealing moments of Aida, I remember not the big comedic set pieces, but the quiet interludes. Those scenes when Aida smokes alone by the window, or when Lorena stares at her reflection after another pointless night out, or when Shema turns off the lights in his store and sighs. These pauses are where the moral irony of the show becomes explicit. Life continues, untransformed. The laughter has passed, but the consequences remain. There is no lesson, no closure, only endurance. Aida understands something that few comedies dare to admit. Survival itself is not victory, it's just the absence of defeat. The children of the show carry the same inherited contradictions. Jonathan idolizes a criminal lifestyle not because he's wicked, but because he sees no alternative version of success. In a society where money defines worth, he seeks shortcuts. Fidel, on the other hand, becomes the innocent counterpoint, a boy of sensitivity trapped in a brutal environment. Their friendship, both comic and touching, mirrors the eternal conflict between conformity and decency. Every time they clash, we see Spain's future debating with its past. It's not just generational humor, it's social prophecy. Another layer of irony in Aida lies in its relationship with the viewer. We laugh at the characters' absurdities, yet that laughter implicates us. It exposes our own moral contradictions. Why is it funny when Aida cheats the welfare office or when Eugenia manipulates her neighbors? Because deep down, we recognize the same opportunism in ourselves. The show becomes a mirror of middle-class hypocrisy. It allows us to laugh at corruption without acknowledging our participation in it. The moral distance collapses, and suddenly the sitcom format becomes a form of collective confession. There's also an unspoken melancholy in the way Aida treats time. The characters age but never mature. Children become teenagers, adults grow old, but no one evolves. The passing years bring only fatigue. In that sense, the series becomes a meditation on stagnation. It tells us that for the poor, time is not progress, it's accumulation. Each year adds another layer of resignation. The repetition of jokes, of arguments, of settings reinforces this slow decay. Esperanza Sur becomes a timeless limbo, where the laughter never ends but also never heals. Comparing Aida to other comedies, I find its tone closer to dark literature than television humor. There's something almost Kafkaesque about its endless bureaucracy of despair, its characters trapped in invisible systems, yet instead of responding with silence, they respond with noise, with shouting, insults, absurd declarations of pride. Their language becomes their last possession, their only weapon. Every insult is an act of self-defense, every dirty joke a brief declaration of independence. It's as if the characters are saying, "You can take our dignity, but you won't take our ability to laugh at it." That defiance transforms vulgarity into a form of dignity. Canción de Tuna becomes the perfect metaphor for this worldview. The traditional student songs of the Tuna are often drunken, nostalgic, full of irony. They celebrate failure with melody. They turn nostalgia into performance. Aida does the same. Each episode is a stanza in a never-ending song about people who keep singing despite having nothing left to sing about. The show itself becomes a tuna band for the forgotten, a chorus of the defeated who refuse silence. One of my favorite ideas when thinking about Aida is that it teaches empathy through discomfort. The audience laughs, yes, but uneasily. The laughter becomes self-critical, forcing us to confront the fragility of morality when confronted with need. The show does not excuse bad behavior, but it contextualizes it. It reminds us that ethics without economic stability are privileges, not virtues. Watching Aida struggle to pay bills or justify her lies, we realize that morality is a luxury of those who can afford to lose. As the series progresses, Aida's exhaustion becomes more than physical. It's existential. She embodies the collapse of the social contract. The state, the family, religion, work, all the traditional pillars of meaning have failed her. What remains is improvisation and humor. Her laugh, though forced, becomes her only act of rebellion. In that sense, Aida transforms the idea of comedy itself. It's no longer about escaping reality, but enduring it. The laughter doesn't dissolve pain. It anesthetizes it just enough to continue. I sometimes think of Aida as a moral X-ray of a generation that grew up believing in progress and ended up drowning in irony. The show reveals a Spain where ideals have been replaced by excuses and solidarity by survival. Yet it does so with tenderness, not bitterness. Its characters may be grotesque, but they are never monsters. They are us, stripped of pretense. Watching them is uncomfortable precisely because they reflect what society prefers to hide. The power of Aida is cumulative. It builds not through plot twists, but through emotional sediment. Episode after episode, laughter after laughter, we begin to feel the weight of repetition, the gravity beneath the absurdity. When Aida looks into the camera with that mix of fatigue and humor, we understand that she's not performing for us. She's enduring us. The audience becomes complicit in her struggle, both laughing at and with her. By the time the show reaches its later seasons, Aida transcends its own genre. It becomes less a sitcom and more an ongoing social chronicle. Its humor remains sharp, but its undertone grows darker. Every joke feels like a sigh disguised as laughter. Every celebration feels slightly forced, as if everyone knows that happiness here is only temporary. Yet the characters persist. They go on drinking, arguing, dreaming, pretending. They keep the melody alive. That, ultimately, is the moral irony of Aida. The realization that persistence itself is moral, even when it looks ridiculous. To keep laughing in a collapsing world is a form of dignity. Canción de Tuna captures that beautifully. The song may be out of tune, the lyrics forgotten, but the act of singing remains. In that act lies humanity. Aida teaches us that morality is not about perfection but participation. The courage to keep playing your part in a world that has stopped making sense.